Thank you. Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you. So I'm the principal at Hong Kong Academy, and this is our purpose-built building. We were founded in 2000, but we moved into our purpose-built campus in Sai Kung in 2013. So one of the reasons why we named this The Journey and Joys of Early Childhood Education is because we do see the power and beauty of early childhood education and the opportunity that we have working with young children. So I came to education myself as a second career. I'm a native New Yorker, and it was really an amazing discovery for me when I moved into education, and I started in early childhood education in New York City, and then later came overseas with my husband and my children. I have been at the school for 13 years, and it's a very special place for me, and it's also a very special place for my children. My son is currently a rising senior in the high school, and my daughter is a rising senior in college. And both of them have come through Hong Kong Academy. And one of the things that when I often say to them, what is most powerful for you about having an education at Hong Kong Academy? And I think for my daughter, coming into the school when she was 8 years old, is that one of the things that has stayed with her is her Chinese language. That's been so important to her. And right now she minors in Chinese in college while she majors in economics. And so that was really important to her, the way that she was able to embrace and enjoy and really love the language. And for my son, he talks a lot about the social aspect, the relationships and the connections he has with other children, in addition to all the sports that he plays that are on offer. And he has really embraced his athleticism at the school. So going back to Hong Kong Academy, early days, it was founded by two founders, interesting enough, also New Yorkers, and they had children who were becoming school age. And they wanted something for their children that would reflect the world that they were going to grow into. They wanted something authentic. And they noticed that in Hong Kong, often there were schools that catered to different groups, different cultures, different organizations. And what they wanted was something that really would be diverse and different. So we are deliberately diverse and intentionally small. And when we look to include families, we look for that diversity because that's the world kids are going to grow into. They're going to grow into a world where people are different. And it's important that they start to experience that and have opportunities to collaborate with children that are different from them and with children that are similar to them. And so when they were thinking about the founding principles and the things that were really important to them, amongst them was also the importance of educational excellence and the role and responsibility that a school has to be an educational leader. And so for us, it was very important. We were one of the first schools to adopt the International Baccalaureate program. So I bet you may have been hearing a lot about the IB today or in the future or in the past. You've heard about the International Baccalaureate. And we are an IB school. And as an IB school, that means that we run all of the programs. So in our elementary, our primary school, we offer the primary years program, we offer the middle years program, and then onto the diploma program. And it really is about a framework. And I'm going to talk a little bit later on about the framework and what it looks like in a primary school and in an early childhood setting. Another guiding principle for us was this idea that we would be educational leaders. So we put as much value on educating children as we do our teachers. We think that it's important that teachers who are in the business of educating children should continue their education. And we make sure that they get professional development, and we are intentional about it. On Wednesdays, our children go home at 12:30, and then the teachers stay until 5 p.m., and they have these rich conversations about the work that they're doing with children, as well as learning from experts in the field. So we often have people come in and do professional development on campus with our staff. In addition to that, we felt it was very important that we would be a community school. So I talked about us being deliberately diverse and intentionally small. We are intentionally small because we want to make sure that we know every child and every family. So we have 2 classes on a grade level. Our classes range anywhere from 18 children to 24, depending on the age group. And we know our kids. We know them really, really well. But we also know our parents really well because we invite our parents in. We invite them in to cook. We invite them in to read. We invite them in to play. And our parents are always welcome on campus. We have lots of different places where parents can come together and just be social with each other because we value community so much. And we think it's so important for children to see community. We also recognize that children are going to grow into a world where there is difference. And so we welcome children with learning differences. So sometimes we have children who are at this end of the spectrum and they are talented and able, and we are pushing them and challenging them. And then sometimes we have children at this end of the spectrum that are still developing and need support. And we welcome and embrace both ends of the spectrum, and we also make sure that they are taught in an inclusive and interactive environment. And in doing so, we make sure that all of our support for children is pushed in. So it's not a matter of kids being pulled out. We push in to support children within the context of their classroom. And sometimes that means that we have additional staffing to support them and help them to be successful. One of the things that's been very exciting to us in the last 3 years is that we developed a playgroup program. And we developed a playgroup program to really support our community. What we noticed was that many of our families were coming to school and they had a younger sibling in tow that wasn't actually be able to go to class. We also recognized that there was a need in Sai Kung community, Clearwater Bay catchment, and we wanted to provide that to the community in the immediate area. We've also feel that it's been a wonderful introduction into the school and helps children to really segue into our pre-K programs. That's our 3 to 5-year-old program. So we offer a playgroup program that is accompanied. So it starts with an accompanying adult. And another piece for us is that we also educate the adults who are working with the child. And so sometimes we have aunts, sometimes we have uncles, we have grandmas and grandpas, we have parents, sometimes we have helpers, but we're making sure that we're also educating the adults that are working with our playgroup children. We also offer special, what we call toddler talks, to also continue to educate anyone that works with the child in the home. So very, very excited about our playgroup. And it's been quite successful. One of the pieces about our playgroup is what we want is we want you to come and see our school. Because we know when you walk through that door, you're going to fall in love with it as much as we have. And so we offer a free 6-week trial for parents to come, be in the school, come to playgroup, and learn alongside your child. So I just brought our mission because our mission is so important to us. We live our mission, we have mission integrity, and we make sure that any decision we make is through the lens of our mission. And you'll see some of the things that I just talked about, some of the founding principles about being an educational leader, having a dynamic learning community, building for a sustainable future. All those things go into every decision that we make for students. And so we always make sure that our mission is front and center at everything that we do. And it's part of the admission process as well. We want to make sure that you also believe in our mission and the work that we are setting out to do. So here's a little poem that I often like to use when I introduce our philosophy, because I think of when I was a student in school, and I remember things being very directed. The teacher was often telling me what to do, how I might interpret something, how I might draw something, how I might do something. And what I like about the poem is that, and we're not probably going to have time for me to read the whole poem because I'm watching the time here, but the poem is really about a child who goes into a school and he's being a natural child. He's curious, he's innovative, and he is setting out to do his own thing. And the teacher stops him. And she asks him to stop and wait because she hasn't told him how he should think and what he should do. And I remember that reminded me so much of my own childhood, about all the direction I was given as a young child in school. I was told where to sit, when to play, who to sit next to, and that there was very little opportunity for self-direction. And as we move through the poem, the child is experiencing over and over adults telling them what something should look like or how they should approach something. And at the end of the poem, the child goes to a new school. And when he goes to the new school, and I'm sorry I'm scrolling through this, and he sits down to make a flower, and he turns to the teacher and he asks the teacher, what color should I make this flower? And the teacher says, whatever color you would like. And he's perplexed because he's been told all this time what colors he should use, what the flower should look like. And in the end, she gives him the freedom to make his flower. And in doing so, when he makes his flower, he actually makes a flower that mimics what his first teacher taught him. But the teacher explains to him that if she told everyone what colors to use or what flower to draw, then she would never know what they know. And she would never know what they need to know. And this resonated with me so much for when I came to education as a second career and fell in love with it, because I realized it didn't have to be in the traditional way that I had been taught. There was a place for magic and wonder and possibilities. And so, when I think of Hong Kong Academy and I think about the things that we really value about children, and this idea of waiting and watching and wondering and working in partnership with a child, and I think about how we really look at children as being capable, competent, and creative. We promote and celebrate uniqueness and difference. And we recognize that all children are curious. I'm imagining that many of you have young children at home. And how many times have you heard why in an hour? Children are naturally curious, and we have got to celebrate that. That's a gift. And we have to make sure that that doesn't disappear. Because whether they're 3, 4, or 5 years old, or 11 and 12 years old, we still want them asking why? Why? And we don't want to be the one who gives them the answer. We want them to have the skills to go in search of the answer and to be curious. So when I think of our philosophy, and often whenever I'm going to come and speak, I kind of go down to early childhood and I say, hey, how would you describe early childhood? Give me one word. And these are words that often pop into the heads of our teachers when they think about early childhood. And I'm just going to unpack them a little bit. So let's think about inquiry. And inquiry really is at the crux of a primary years program education. And I know that the IB, the International Baccalaureate, is filled with lots and lots of jargon. So I'm going to try to explain inquiry in a way that I hope will be connected for you. And that is you are all on an inquiry mission right now because you are in search of knowledge. And you're in search of knowledge about schools. But coming to this experience, you have knowledge. You all went to school. You might even have children that are in school. You have neighbors who are in school, family members who have younger children who are in school. So you've got some knowledge. You've got some base. You've also are learning. You're here at this fair, and you are learning about all these different schools, and you're learning from each other. You're giving each other tips. You're listening to each other's questions. You're interacting with your social and natural world. And you are being curious. And you are wondering, and you are asking questions, and you are going in search of knowledge, and you are gaining knowledge. And then as you gain this knowledge, you're going to go home and you're going to synthesize it and analyze it, and you are going to figure out what action you are going to take. How is it going to change your behavior? You're going to make a decision about a school for your family. And so that's very much what an inquiry cycle looks like. Children ask questions. They are curious about something. They go in search of knowledge. They gain knowledge. They might even go in further search of more knowledge as they have more questions. They analyze it. They synthesize it. And they reflect on how is this going to change me, change my behavior. And then that's the action that they take. So when we think about trust, trust is about trust with the teacher and the teacher trusting the child. And what we feel is so important is that we trust that every child is competent and capable. And we honor and respect them by doing things, by allowing them to do things that they are curious about. Also believing that they have the capability. So children, when they have snack and it's time to have juice at snack or water, they drink out of a real China cup because we entrust them with that China cup. We feel that they will honor and cherish that cup if they understand that if they drop it, it will break. We let them water the plants. And we know that they learn that if they overwater the plants, it's not a good situation. So they learn to conserve water. And they learn how to water the plant, but we entrust them with it. And the children trust us to give them those opportunities. Process. And one of the things that I often say to parents about the process of early childhood education is that it is a journey and it is not a race. Your children have so much time to learn and discover. Let's give them that really strong foundation. Let's let them savor this time. And let's go slowly. And I can guarantee you that they will get to where they need to be. Authenticity. And I love this slide because this is a slide of Andre. And Andre wanted to move water from one place to another. And he's doing it with so much purpose. So he's going to this barrel that was on the other side of the playscape, and he's filling up his water bucket, and he is marching off to this bucket, and he is determined to fill this other bucket. So he's transferring water from one place to another. And whilst some educators might look on, or some parents might look on and wonder, what is the purpose of this? And the purpose is very clear to Andre. It's very meaningful for him. He's very engaged. And he is very purposefully transferring water from one bucket to the next. And when I asked him, Andre, why did you do that? And he said, I estimated how many, he said, actually, I guesstimated, because that's a word we use with the kids. I guesstimated how many watering cans it would take to get to fill this bucket. And I said, how did you do? And he said he was way over. But for him, it was very, very purposeful. It was very meaningful. And he was doing all kinds of wonderful skills. There was conservation skills going on here, estimating skills going on here. But that's because we gave him the freedom to do that. And we allowed him to lead his own play. And this was while he was on the playscape. The other piece that we look at is the environment. And the environment is so important. And it's important to allow children to manipulate the environment. So it's a matter of putting out things that the children are exposed to. So in this situation, which I love, this is Marley and Jack and Kavi, and they, in their dramatic play area, are blocks and planks and fabrics. And so this wasn't set up for them. They created this. And then we got some old instruments that were down in the music room that weren't being used anymore. But they wanted to put a band together. And they realized that their band needed some staging. And so they went and they found from the fabrics, and they found the boa. And they, with the teacher's help, they set up the platform, and they were directing the teacher how to set this up. But that's because the environment allowed that. There were loose parts in the environment that they could do something like this. Exploration, and that is all part of the inquiry, because when we create an environment where children can explore and materials are open-ended and they have an opportunity to explore, they will. And another piece that's very important to us is allowing children to lead their own play and to be self-directed. Because yes, we can direct students, but what we ultimately want as children grow and learn is that they are self-motivated, they are self-directed, and they are self-moderating. And that's really what we want from them. So we have to give them opportunities to do that. We have to give them opportunities to be successful in doing that, but we also have to give them opportunities to not be successful and then problem solve when they're not being successful. And here is Liam giving his mom a ride on the back of his scooter. Play. Play is the language of children. And what we love about play is that this is the way that children make sense of their world. They go out into the world and they see all these grown-ups interacting. They see how the world works. And when they come to their play, they replicate the world, and they also make sense of the world. And they often do this through block building, where they might replicate a situation, where they might build a restaurant that they went to and then replicate the interaction that their parents and them had at the restaurant. Once I went to a classroom and a little boy had these 2 little magnets, and they were flat magnets, and he kept clicking them together. And he called it the MTR, because he was remembering how the MTR doors open and close. And it was just so fascinating to see like that this is how he's coming in and interpreting it and replicating it in his world and making sense of it. Communication is very, very important, and we often think of the 100 of languages, if you think of Reggio Emilia inspired work, the 100 languages of children, and sometimes that's in play, and sometimes that's in linguistics. And what we want is that children are communicating to us, and sometimes that's through their art, sometimes that's through their play, and sometimes that's through their language. We are very committed to our Mandarin program. And so in our play group, we have 2 teachers. One is a native English speaker and another is a native Mandarin teacher. And so whilst the language of instruction is English at the school, we ensure that the children are exposed to Mandarin at a very young age. And it's very much a mirroring program. So the children are hearing both of the languages. As they move into the composite class, the pre-K class, which are 3 to 5-year-olds, they also have a native English speaker and a native Mandarin teacher. Both of them are certified early childhood teachers, but the children are hearing both languages in the 3 to 5-year-old program as well, because we feel that that model is so important for children to be exposed and surrounded by an additional language. As the children move into primary school, which is our kindergarten through grade 5, that's our 5-year-olds, up to our 11-year-olds, Mandarin becomes a standalone subject, where children have Mandarin for 200 minutes a week. But because we really value that model that we have in playgroup and pre-K, we make sure that we have additional Mandarin teachers that go in and converse with the kids in Mandarin. So they might come in and do a read aloud. They might go to PE with them and be using the Mandarin language in PA. They're speaking to children in Mandarin, children are speaking back to them in Mandarin. They might go to an art class. They might come in and run a book club with students. So it's a matter of just infusing. So it's not that the 200 minutes is more of the technical teaching and the acquisition of language, whereas the Mandarin co-teacher is the teacher who's infusing the language very organically to the students. So I'm just getting the signal that the time is up. And I know if you have any questions, I think I might have to leave, but I'm going to be at our booth. We're at stall 19, table 19, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions, as well as our amazing staff that are there as well to support. Okay, thank you, and all the best in your search.